I mean, it was a fabulous airplane, but that was the first day of the exercise. They were there for 10 days and they were grounded every day after that because another mechanical problem had been found back stateside. So it was a real shame. Great airplane, just a real shame.
And usually with those kinds of radical new designs or whatnot, they take time to take the bugs out. But I guess it was just too expensive or whatnot. They just maybe the B2 was right around the corner. It's always been amazing to me that they never got that attention.
Yeah, I think the killer ultimately was that refueling issue, and I'm not sure exactly what that was.
Yeah,
but it could not refuel above a certain altitude, and so it just consumed fuel like you wouldn't believe. And then, as you said, the B2 was right around the corner. And in fact, the joke that was going around Strategic Air Command at the time, although it doesn't exist anymore, was that General Chain, the then commander, when he saw the price tag of the first B2, he said, "We need to make sure there aren't ejection seats in this airplane because I don't want to talk to the first gentleman that crashed one of these."
Yeah. But I mean, it was funny. The historical unveiling, I guess, of the B2. I mean, it's credited with ending the Cold War. It was the last straw. A lot of people said that the Russians can no longer compete, or the Soviets can no longer compete.
Yeah.
That it had just been such a step above anything technologically. They kept toe to toe, I think, with their naval forces, their submarines or whatever, but they could not keep up with the B2.
Yeah. The acceleration of the deployment of technology in the military is pretty impressive. I know you've seen it over your career. When I was on Guam training, we didn't have GPS. We heard about it. Hey, maybe in the future we're going to get this. We had the old INS navigational systems. We had to go out and start engines 4 hours before departure so they could all spin up and get accurate locations. And we deployed for Desert Shield, and we landed on Diego Garcia. And within that first 2 weeks we were there, every airplane had GPS. And then as the time in Desert Shield transitioned to Desert Storm, development of the high-tech smart weapons was really ramping up. And by the time that conflict was up, because we dropped all dumb weapons, none of ours were guided.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that doesn't even happen anymore. In fact, from the few contacts I have remaining in the service, I'm not sure I'd be really interested in the B-52 mission today, because today they take off, they find an orbit location 600 miles from conflict at altitude. They read a book or study for their master's program or whatever they need to do while they're burning up gas in the sky, boring holes, we called it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon they get a signal to go ahead and launch your smart weapons from 600 miles out. They puke off a bunch of smart cruise missiles and they go home.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too exciting. It sounds like drones will soon replace that mission. But I do, in all the combat operations that they have today in Afghanistan primarily, that you do hear the B-52 though is still used an awful lot. So it's a great platform, and it's high enough and safe enough, especially with the enemies that we're up against, where it's pretty much invulnerable.
Yeah, and they do have smart weapons that they release now besides the cruise missiles. They I mean, when you consider the frag pattern of a 500-pounder being what it is, and you can stretch out a pretty devastating area, stick length of 6-7 miles, or condense it to just a few hundred yards, it's very impressive what they can wreak upon the ground area. So it'll catch your attention pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would imagine. And this whole world is so foreign to me. It's so exciting to hear the stories and so forth. But for 1 second, I don't want to forget that, it's exciting and all that, but it is war. It's terrifying.
That's right.
And I'm sure, there was some friends of yours and others that, over time, that probably didn't make it or whatnot, because even in training, it's not a sport.
Nope.
It's a serious game, and there's so many things that can go wrong.
We had our missions were pretty grueling. We'd fly a mission and we get 2 days off because literally took 2 days to physically recover, because by the time you had your show time to go through all the intel briefings, target study, get out the aircraft, get the engines up and running, get systems checked out, take off, do your mission, come home, and then debrief, it was around 28 hours. And we were getting pretty exhausted, even though it was a very short-lived war. We were getting pretty exhausted as a squadron by the second, third week. And so they sent a couple of augmentation crews over from the States. And there was a crew that got on an airplane that we had just flown. And when we took off, we had some mechanical issues. We ran through the checklist. We were a fairly experienced crew.
Right.
We ran through checklists. We did what we needed to do. We dropped our bombs on target. We came home. We debriefed with maintenance. We covered off on all the issues. This crew, a very inexperienced group from a stateside base, gets on that airplane, and they never made it back. They crashed in the dark about 10 miles from landing on Guam, and 3 of the crew members were lost.
That's horrible.
So yes, it was very real. Things like that would bring it home, and it was very sobering.
Yeah,
you know?
That's what I mean. It's not a game, you know.
No.
It's an experience. So the war ends. Are you still at Diego Garcia when Saddam capitulated?
Yeah, we were. They put us on like an alert status for the final 3 weeks we were there, because they weren't really sure it was all over. It is then finally announced that the shooting is over. I mean, he was nowhere to be found, or was. I guess he was. I'm confusing the two conflicts here, but
it's easy to do.
Forgive my old brain. Yeah. So they decide we're going to go home, and all the people had to return to their base, and the airframes had to return to their base of assignment. So we had 3 bombers from our squadron that had post-struck into Jeddah because they had battle damage. And so my crew and 2 other crews were selected. I think it was just a simple lottery. We happened to be the lucky ones. We rode in a tanker up to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, landed and waited for the maintenance crews to finish the last couple of events, and then we flew those airplanes home. We left first part of August. We got back. We landed in Maine in the middle of a snowstorm, of course, in April.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the base had a big party for us. It was quite a celebration.
I would imagine, yeah. Those were quite triumphant times. It was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember the parades and everything. It was It was long and drawn. Desert Shield was long and drawn out. Desert Storm was 3 weeks. I mean, it's just amazing. Yeah,
just over 3 weeks. One of the 3 crews among us that went to Saudi, we drew cards in a card game, literally. The aircraft commanders, the 3 of us, were at a card table because one had to go to D.C. for the parade. And a guy named Rod Yates got the low card. That's how thrilled we were about going there. And actually, I still have the Time magazine somewhere around the house. There's a 2-page photo of him on the ramp, just having got out of his airplane, bending over in a run to hug. I think he had 5 kids. They were all young kids.
Oh, wow.
And they were all just about to overwhelm him. It's a very emotional photograph. It was just, I mean, it kind of made it all. That's why we went.
Yeah. Yeah. So from that point, is this where you finished your time, or did you stay longer, or what happened after that?
So I was never one of the guys that got in because I wanted to be an airline pilot for the commercial airlines, nor was I necessarily of the mindset that I wanted to be a career officer. What I was really interested in was finding a way to get to NASA. And I came back from the conflict, started really thinking about this, and I found a way to get there. Now, there's limited ways you can get there. I mean, if you're a test pilot, that's one way for certain.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in test pilot school. But the U-2 was a platform that could get you there, and it was very hard to get an interview at a U-2 base, let alone be selected. But I managed to get an interview based on a package I'd submitted to go out to Beale to get interviewed. And so I was pretty pumped about this. Now, I developed a good professional relationship and almost a personal relationship with a couple of my executive leaders.
Okay.
And one of our directors of operations had just decided that this just wasn't a really good career path for me to take. He felt that whatever he saw in me, right, wrong, or indifferent, might be the thing of a future leader. And he thought, well, he kind of mapped out in his office when he called me there one day and said, they all called me Snod, just like my college buddies did.
Okay.
They said, Snod, that's a career-ending move. You're never going to make anything over 05 if you go there. And I said, but I don't care. He said, no, you need to go first to the Pentagon. You'll be an aide for a couple of years to one of the staff flag officers. Then we'll send you down to Air Command and Staff College. You'll be a student. You may stay there to be an instructor, and then you're going to come out and be ready for maybe an XO position at a bomb squadron, maybe a bomb squadron commander, and maybe with a little luck, full colonel or more down the road. And we didn't see eye to eye on that career path.
Okay.
And eventually I just decided it's time to go. So I got my package together. At the time, the airlines were hiring in a frenzy. Mm-hmm. And I put my package all together and got out and was in all the interview queues that you have to go through, which, believe it or not, it's more difficult to become an airline pilot than it is a military pilot. It has something to do with the liability and the cash involved, I believe. But I was in that queue when the airlines just kind of crashed. And they go through this cycle where every 10 or 12 years, they're just at rock bottom, and they didn't hire anybody for the next 10 years. It was really an unbelievable situation. I was very fortunate in that when I came home from the Navy and that time that it took me to decide to apply for the Air Force, I actually worked as a supervisor for Dana Corporation here in the state of Indiana. And that coupled with my experience in the military and my technical background from an academic standpoint, I secured a position. When it was clear to me the airline thing wasn't going to happen, I was hired by an entrepreneur who had his own business. He was looking to grow it. And I kind of worked through a couple of those scenarios where each entrepreneur group I was with got a little bit bigger. And then I actually got a second opportunity to get back into the flying business. I flew the DC-9s for about 18 months out of Willow Run up by Detroit. It was the last real chance I had to get into any commercial aviation. Unfortunately, I must be the worst timed guy ever in aviation because just as I was ready to upgrade to left seat, the whole airline crash happened again. But I was fortunate enough that a company here in Warsaw, Indiana was interested in hiring me, and that's when I came here.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah. a couple of things. I definitely see a pattern. You like planes that are older than God's dog.
That's very true.
I mean, it's amazing to me. And I do get that. It's funny how, just from my point of view, it doesn't matter. I never really served on ships very much. I was a small boat guy, but to me, there's nothing like the lines, or even, I look at older aircraft or older ships or whatever. There's just something about them, You look at the modern aircraft, and I know Boeing's going through a lot, and it's not a good story. But you look at over the designs that they have today, and they're just so bland. There's nothing to them.
Oh yeah.
Well,
not only that, Ken. The one friend of mine that I referenced earlier that was in Guam, he was fortunate. He got hired by American Airlines. He's been there his whole career. Mm-hmm. A couple of times, the more depressed years, they nearly laid his class off, but he's managed to remain employed without a break. And I was talking to him recently, and he's in 777s now, flying internationally. And I said, Jim, this just has to be so cool. You're flying the newest, greatest stuff. He said it is the most boring flying he's ever done in his life because the technologies that exist on these aircraft, they can fly better